Prepare for the worst Christian Bale impression ever put to YouTube.
Do I want? No! No!
Thor Love and Thunder had no business being as bad as it was. It should have been at least on par with Thor Ragnarok. Taika Waititi was back, Hemsworth was game, we'd finally get Natalie Portman in a top tier role, and to top it all off, Christian Bale was joining the fray as Gorr the God Butcher.
How exciting.
I was so freaking excited for Christian Bale to be Gorr. That's perfect casting. Bale is a powerhouse, and after being the Batman himself, it felt like a sweet reversal for him to be playing a Marvel villain.
Oh, good for you. And how was it?
4 solo movies and 4 Avengers movies into Thor's journey, he's faced great foes in Loki, Hela and Thanos. Gorr was poised to blow them all out of the water. Imagine how much sweeter Phase 4 would have been if we had a great Thor movie in there, with a villain that challenges him as well as Thanos did, a villain just as menacing and memorable in some kick-ass action. I think if either this or Doctor Strange had been as good as they should have been, the bad will towards the MCU at the moment would have been greatly reduced. People keep telling me I've entered the bloody MCU. What is that? I've not entered anything. However, a broken clock will tell the time right twice a day, and Thor Love and Thunder does have one particularly good scene with Gorr. It's the very first scene, where we actually establish some stakes for him, we feel for him, and his arc from the start of the scene to the end of the scene makes perfect sense, unlike later on. It's also the single best point of Christian Bale's performance in the entire movie. The best scene in Thor Love and Thunder is the one at the very beginning, and it doesn't even include Thor whatsoever.
What a classic Thor adventure.
So the setup for this fantastic scene is that Gorr has suffered walking through the desert, he's lost his daughter to starvation, dehydration, and soon he too will perish. It's clear that this man has full faith in his god, and even at the end, he prays for more solutions.
Oh, great and mighty Rapu, we pray to you.
Then he comes across a beautiful oasis and believes it is a sign. But upon meeting his god, he is shocked to find out that he is not who he thought he was.
Look at it. It's gobbling up all my fruit.
Rapu, Gorr's god, is played by Johnny Brah, a notable Taika alum from What We Do in the Shadows. His role here isn't comedic at all, and partly why this scene works so well is because he and Bale play off each other so damn well.
Oh, it's one of mine.
He really twists the knife into Gorr with his utter indifference towards his pain, towards his daughter's death.
No, sorry. There's no eternal reward for you, dog!
Brah plays Rapu with such oblivious arrogance towards lowly Gorr that you totally buy why he feels completely and utterly safe, in spite of the Necro Sword being only a few feet away. He doesn't feel like he's in any danger, that Gorr is just an insect to him that he can crush whenever he wants without repercussions or further meditation on what that would mean. Plus, he has a great pompous look with all that gold.
Suffering for your gods is your only purpose. There's nothing for you after death.
Before the scene's even over, you're begging Gorr to butcher this god. My experience of Batman was doing crossword puzzles in the suit, waiting for the blokes to say, "Alright Chris, we need you now." I know a lot of people were disappointed that Gorr didn't have his alien features, but I stand by that decision with this opening scene. Bale, sans CGI, with only makeup to bolster his otherworldly image, excels in this scene. He refused to phone it in here, and you feel the appropriate amount of empathy to get invested into his journey. What happened for the rest of the movie? It's almost like Bale acted his socks off in this scene and then realised a few weeks later on set that this whole thing was going to be a mess, and he promptly shifted to hamming it up as much as possible.
Man, this is fucking bullshit, okay?
I don't blame him, someone had to make this stinker more fun.
These fucking assholes, these fucking assholes!
It's moments like when the gods first laugh at him and he's looking around in complete disbelief because it goes against every single facet of his worldview. We see him go through the denial, rage, bargaining, depression, and acceptance in finding out that no, his God is not kind or loving or willing to help him. He doesn't care about him at all. And then for him to think back to the fact that his daughter died for nothing.
My daughter died. in your name.
That heartbreak is palpable. I feel more for Gorr here than I do for Jane Foster the entire movie. Thor Love and Thunder manages to take terminal cancer and mines it for jokes instead of empathy. We don't feel caught up in her plight anywhere near as much as we should. Why didn't she get a scene as raw as this one? Let alone asking why didn't Gorr get a follow-up scene half as good? For example, there was going to be a scene where Gorr was going to scour the tattoos on his head because they were meant to represent his devotion to Rapu, but it was cut. The idea of a movie starring a god having a villain wrestling with his faith is so ripe for depth, but it ends up woefully surface level.
I renounce you.
I love that once Gorr figures out what's what, he renounces Rapu immediately, even though he knows that this god is infinitely more powerful than him. He has no fear in doing that. He's principled and he just wants to show him that he's no longer going to serve him. Of course, Rapu responds by instantly trying to murder him. So obviously the sword calls to Gorr. I like that it literally speaks to him, and it would have been nice to get more of that in the movie, a la Doc Ock being influenced by the arms, but whatever. Rapu gets to spend his final moments in the same disbelief he had subjected Gorr to moments earlier, as this insignificant creature performs the unthinkable and slays him effortlessly.
You are now cursed.
Funny. It doesn't feel like a curse. It feels like a promise.
Of course, Rapu would see it as a curse. He sees only a loss of control and power in the Necro Sword. For Gorr, it is an opportunity for justice to level the playing field. It is his duty. Gorr goes from being the most vulnerable character in the scene to one the audience can be intimidated by, and Bale sells it all with that purposeful scowl. And he ends the scene with the most badass line in the entire movie.
So this is my vow. All gods will die.
Side note, this scene also has some pretty nice visual effects. The rest of the movie is plagued by some really terrible green screen, but it seemed like they pulled a lot of efforts into making sure the designs of the creatures were inventive, and the CGI looked pretty decent here. Again, if only it could carry through to the rest of the movie. My snack of choice in the cinema? Coffee and a Snickers. And from here, Gorr doesn't kill a single god on screen. Not a single one! That is maddening. That is insane to me. I honestly couldn't believe that there was a plot point in the movie involving a city of gods, and that city of gods arrogantly state that Gorr cannot find them. Gorr, the God Butcher, the guy with the sword that specifically hunts gods, and they end up being right.
We are safe here. You, my friend, you are safe here.
Thor causes more trouble at Omnipotent City than Gorr ever does.
That's the sound of lightning.
Fuck's sake, man, you're amateur.
I was so sure that Gorr was going to tear this place apart, if only because the writing had set all that up. Ever heard of Chekhov's gun? Well, of course you have. This whole place exists to be the target of Gorr. This is the bomb under the table that for some reason just doesn't go off. Just imagine if Gorr had shown up here and laid waste to half the gods on the spot. Maybe then Zeus could have even gifted Thor the lightning bolt when he realises he was wrong, rather than just having Thor try to murder him. Isn't he supposed to be the non-God Butcher in this story?
Another martini, Paul.
Thor Love and Thunder had potential. Jane Foster's long-awaited return to the MCU could have been electric, her romance with Thor could have been heartbreaking, and we could have really felt something for Gorr.
Sorry to disappoint.
This scene goes a great way in establishing his motives, seeing his transformation into the God Butcher. It makes you hyped for the rest of the movie every time you watch it, and yet somehow, by the end of the movie, you're kicking yourself for watching such a lazy, tired, withered piece of shit in MCU's Phase 4. What a waste of a Thor installment. Although I do appreciate that neither Willem Dafoe or Christian Bale refuse to phone in an MCU villain.
Nice. Very nice. Thanks.
The best thing about this scene is you come away from it like, Gorr's got a point. Suddenly all the funny but asinine things Thor does have a much more sinister tinge to them. The gods hold on to so much power over everyone else, even if they don't know how to wield that power appropriately. We should have spent the rest of the movie torn on who to root for. We love Thor, but we also want Gorr to avenge his daughter. We want the gods to face justice. Instead, Gorr just kidnaps some kids in the hopes of luring Thor out, and there's some bullshit plot point about him wanting Stormbreaker to find eternity. Why does he have to find a god kill switch to destroy them when he already has a necro sword? I swear to God. Swear to me! Out of the options of watching Bale slaughter the gods in a villainous rampage and watching him screw around with kidnapping and finding bullshit MacGuffins, it's easy to see which one would have been leagues more entertaining. Do you agree that Christian Bale's performance had so much potential as Gorr the God Butcher? Do you think this is the best scene in Thor Love and Thunder, or do you think there's another scene that's actually better? What would you have done to Gorr the God Butcher's arc in the movie to make it more substantial? Let me know in the comments below. A big thank you to my full fat tier patron, Dr. Chike. If you'd like to donate money to my Patreon, you can find me at patreon.com/fullfatvideos. If you'd like to find me on Instagram, you can find me at full_fat_videos. And if you'd like to find me on Twitter, you can find me at fullfatvideos.